Salute discipoli. So I have 4 sententiae for you this chapter. Yeah, I know that's a lot. So we have to set up the book a little bit more. So this is really plain PowerPoint, just like the last time. So if you deem it necessary, you can go on Moodle, download the PowerPoint, and make it awesome and send it back to me. I'll give you bonus to the first person who does that for me. So let's get started, shall we? So we need to update the table of contents. We forgot to do that last chapter. And by we, of course, I mean me. So on the inside front cover, you should have already had this first one written in there, 1-chapter 32-1. So the first number is the page number. The second part, of course, the chapter, and then the third number is the number of the sententiae that's on that page. So on page 1, we have sententia number 1. Page 2, sententia number 2. And on page 3, after today, we will have sententiae numbers 3 through 7. So write it exactly as it appears right here on the inside front cover. Don't write too big because we want to be using this throughout the whole thing. Next, you should go to page 3. So that is the actual second piece of paper in the notebook, and it'll be on the front there. So on the very top line, above the top line, you should write sententiae numbers 3 through 7, like I have it up here. And then right underneath that, label it as chapter 34. And then you want to skip a line right here between chapter 34 and number 1. So I need you to write each of these 4. It should fit on one page. And if you listen to me putting the sententiae numbers 3 through 7 above the top line, and then on the second line, the chapter 34, skipping the line, and then putting number 1. This will fit perfectly. So you should put next to number 1 in vino veritas, skip 4 lines. So in vino veritas, and then 1, 2, 3, 4. Number 2, nunc est bibendum, skip 4 lines. So nunc est bibendum, and then you count 1, 2, 3, 4. On the next line, number 3, aut bibat, aut abeat. After that, you want to count for 1, 2, 3, 4. Then on the next line, number 4, da locum melioribus. And then you should have 4 open lines and then the one little mini one underneath that at the very bottom. So it should fit really nicely. So I'd like you to copy these down on one page. That would be page 3. We're getting all 4 of these on one page. And once you have them written down in vino veritas, nunc est bibendum, aut bibat, aut abeat, and da locum melioribus. Once you have them written down, put a fun box around them like you have been for the other ones and kind of make them pop a little bit. These are not as big as the other ones. They're only taking up 1 line, but they still deserve a fun box because I want them to sort of pop off the page because we're going to put other writing on here. I don't want them to look plain. I can show you mine when I get to school or when we're in class if you'd like. Okay. So let's carry on. All of these are on the next slide as well, so if you don't have them copied down, it is okay. So I have given you the translation for each of these. So in vino veritas, this is actually something people say in English when they're drinking and having a good time, and maybe something unexpected slips out of someone's mouth and it ends up being the truth. Um, Someone might say in vino veritas, and yes, I know I put V's in there, but that's what Americans do. They think it's in vino veritas. And so you might hear that in English. But in wine, the truth. So we have to think about this not from a modern standpoint where your teacher is telling you that there is truth in getting drunk. That's not what we're saying. We are thinking about these phrases through the culture of the Romans. Okay, so this is something that they would say, and it has actually come through into our language in the very same situation. So um, it's definitely saying something about their culture that this ended up in chapter 34. Okay, so write down, you should have in vino veritas written down, and then also on the same line, write down my translation in wine, the truth. Okay, so this grammar is pretty simple. In vino is just a prep phrase. In plus the ablative, easy peasy. Veritas is nominative singular. There is no verb in this little phrase. It's a phrase. It's not something that has to be a full sentence. All right, so number 2, you should have nunc est bibendum down. And again, we have a drinking quote. Now is the time to drink. So I hope you can see what's missing from the Latin. There's no word for time. So something you can say is now is for drinking if you're not okay with putting the word time in there. But a standard translation for nunc est bibendum is now is the time to drink. So have your nunc est bibendum written down on the same line. Put your translation. Now is the time to drink. This grammar I'm not going to explain very much. We have a nice little adverb, a linking verb, and then this really weird word with an nd in the middle that you've never seen that form before, and you won't see it until Latin 4. Gerunds and gerundives have nds in them. So no worries about that. Number 3, out bibat, out abeat. So the outs, and that means either or. Now you can put either at the beginning here if you want, if it makes you feel better, but you don't have to. I think the meaning of it still comes through without it. So let him drink or let him leave. I feel like Titus in our story would say something like this. Let him drink or let him leave. So another drinking quote. So this grammar I'm also not going to explain to you very much, but you've seen something like out out before, where you have the two outs. We've seen it with et. Both et and et used together means both and. So both peanut butter and jelly. Now out out, if you said out peanut butter, out jelly, either peanut butter or jelly, and you just don't want that. So that's not a very good example because you don't want to have to pick between your PB and J. So make sure you have out bibat, out abeat written down with the translation I'm giving you here on the same line. Now this grammar for these verbs I'm not really going to explain. It's something you're going to get in the second semester of this year. They're subjunctive. They're just kind of throwing them at you just a little bit at a time. Number 4, da locum melioribus. I like this one. It's less about drinking. Less, not entirely, but less about drinking. So it means give way to your betters. And I really like how they use this adjective here and how we translate it into English. So here's the grammar parts. This grammar you've seen before, but it's a goofy imperative. So this da is a command from the verb to give. So give way. The way part is the locum. Locum means location, place. So you could, a literal translation would be give a place, give a location for your betters. But this just sounds more eloquent in English. Melioribus is the grammar we are getting this chapter. It's an adjective with a little eor in the middle of it, which makes it, instead of good, it makes it better. So this one has been used as a noun, so we translate it as betters. Like, in other words, better things. Give way to your better things, your better attributes, your better characteristics. Okay? So you should have numbers 1 through 4 with 4 spaces between them, the Latin written down, and the English written down. This is all I have for you in this part. You need to, under each one, I would like you to do 2 things. Paraphrase the translation. What does it actually mean? Put it in your own words and use more words than, like, number 1, in wine, the truth. Use a couple verbs in your explanation, your paraphrase of that phrase, of that quote. Okay? So you are putting it into your own words, number 1. And the second thing you are doing is giving me a situation that one might use one of these phrases. And let's keep it clean, people. I know this is about drinking, which is a huge cultural thing for the Romans and still is, but not in a like crazy party kind of way. It's just a cultural thing. It's a fun thing. It's just a way to be social without being crazy, obnoxious, and frat boy drunk. Okay, or frat girl drunk. I am not being sexist here. Or sorority girl, really? I said frat girl. Sorority girl drunk. So none of that. That's not what it's talking about. Think about Roman culture, not our horrible college culture here that I never partook in, which you know. So I have talked for 12 minutes about these quotes. I think that's enough. All right, straw out.